Hi there, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, getting underway for a new week here on EWTN Radio. I am Jerry Usher, along with Debbie Georgiani. Michael Birchfield, our producer, is in place. Jeff Burson, I assume, is on the social media, and I believe Ryan Penny is screening calls today. And we are going to ask you about things that you have been hearing about, reading about, and learning about in the news that may not have gotten a whole lot of attention. Right, Debbie?
That is true. It's a new addition to our lineup, monthly, hopefully, on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and we're calling it In the News. And that is, we're all fully aware of the news stories that make it to the mainstream media, that elevate to that level, okay? We're pretty much aware of that. If you just turn on the TV, if you pick up a paper, you know, the old-fashioned way, if you pick up a paper, if you don't read it on the internet, you'll see that those stories are out there and they're floating and they're very important. But there's countless news stories that are equally as important, and they just get missed, or they get kind of glossed over, or maybe there's a brief mention. But I think it's really important if we highlight them, especially for those of us who are interested in moving our faith along that spiritual journey, because we're pilgrims, right? We're on a journey, we're on a mission, and we want to get closer to God. And these stories can help us, and they can enlighten us, and they can enhance our spiritual life. So if you have come across a story that just seemed to get missed, or just there was a brief mention, why don't you bring it up? Why don't you call in and bring it up on the show today, and let's discuss it from a Catholic perspective. Okay, I know Jerry has a couple stories, I have a couple stories, and we want to hear from you. So dial in right now and share your story that may have gotten missed by the mainstream media. 833-288-3986. That's the number to call. Jerry, did I cover that correctly for our new show edition, or I should say our topics that we're adding once a month? I think it's kind of cool.
I think you covered it very, very well, and we all know that the media are very important to our lives. Local print media, radio, TV, EWTN, of course, but we don't always get the straight scoop. That's one of the reasons I love watching EWTN News Nightly, for example. But as Debbie said, maybe there's something that happened in your little part of the world, your city, your town, that maybe didn't make it beyond that in the news that you would like to share with us if you feel it's an important story to talk about. Maybe something in your state, maybe even something nationally that you thought got just a little teensy-weensy bit of coverage but deserved more. I've got a couple of examples of that I'm going to share here at some point on the program. So please do join us, 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
So share what's in the news that you think can help us in our spiritual life and let us grow and learn something about ourselves and fellow human beings. And also, hopefully, we'll grow a little bit closer to God as we explore this topic. And maybe it can get us to realize something about ourselves, where our heart is. So, Jerry, I don't know the all the details of the story because I literally just heard it about 30 minutes before we started the show. Okay. It was brought to my attention, but after the show, I'm going to go and I'm going to research it and find out the details. I understand there was a gentleman in Portugal who sailed for a few months to Argentina to see his aging father, his 94-year-old father, something of that nature, to see he had to visit his father when the COVID broke and everybody was had to be on kind of lockdown and staying away and couldn't travel. He sailed, Jerry. He sailed for 3 months I'm going to cry. He sailed for 3 months to see his dad. He had to see his dad, and he made it to Argentina. Is that beautiful? Wow. I'm going to get the details of it, but I'll tell you what, I think we'd all like a son or daughter like that, right?
How did you come across that story?
It was actually, I just happened to flip on my local station here as I was getting ready for the show, and I just turned on the radio and they were talking about it. And so I didn't get any of the details of it. After the show, like I said, I'm going to go and I just want to learn about this man, and I want to learn about his family and why he felt the need to have to actually physically see his dad one more time. And he took that trip. And I understand that all of his friends and colleagues told him that it was dangerous. He may never come back. But that didn't stop him. He was going to see his dad.
Yeah. Well, love will make us do things like that, and what a beautiful story. I do hope that you'll learn more about that and that you'll at least share it with me off the air, if not on the air. But we have a couple of open phone lines here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and we're talking today about things in the news, things that you have come across, that you have heard. It could be something very, very inspiring, like Debbie just shared. These kinds of things don't often make it too widely into the news, but sometimes they do. Sometimes they go viral, as they say, but maybe it was something that you came across. Maybe you witnessed something. Maybe you read something in your local paper, saw something on your local news, or even something national. I've got a couple of things, again, like I said, that I want to touch upon, but the number is 833-288-3986. And if I may, Debbie, one of the things that I wanted to mention, a lot of people in Catholic circles know about this, but I was online for quite a long time this morning looking in the San Francisco Chronicle and other newspapers in that part of the country for stories about the exorcism that Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone did, where the statue of Junipero Serra was pulled down. And interesting, today is the final day of Religious Freedom Week 2020, as determined by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. And the statue was pulled down on June 19th. Like I said, I didn't see any mention of it anywhere, but His Excellency the Archbishop referred to it as an act of sacrilege, as an act of the evil one. And so he went out there and he was joined by a number of clergy and religious and lay people and actually had an official exorcism there in the area. So I didn't see it in the San Francisco newspaper, which is where it took place. And you would think that that would be a pretty big story, especially in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I saw it on Facebook, actually. Facebook circulated it rather well, and so they were talking about that. And there was a lot of comments. Some people thought it was really, an amazing thing, a courageous and brave thing to do, and a smart thing to do. And then others felt that it was maybe a little bit too late. To maybe to do ahead of time. There's always different sides, and we respect all those different angles. But real quickly, Jerry, just to get back to the story I was sharing about that wonderful son from Portugal who traveled to Argentina, we're getting some comments asking if he had to be quarantined. I understand that he had to be tested to see if he had COVID. He had to wait to see what his test results were until he could see his dad, but he did get to reunite with his dad. Pretty cool, huh? Very cool, very cool.
All right, share something that you have come across in the news that wasn't maybe widely disseminated. 833-288-3986. And now we'll get you on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie here on this Monday broadcast.
Call to communion.
Through EWTN Radio, we talk to audiences all over the world. One thing I've found out is everybody in the whole world has the same set of questions. They live the same human life. They all want meaning, they all want love, they all want significance, they want forgiveness. That's the most fascinating thing to me. The same answers work wherever you are throughout the world, because we're all children of God.
Called to Communion with Dr. David Anders. This afternoon, 2 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Wings is the weekly newsletter that's packed with program info, features, and updates of all that's going on at the Global Catholic Network. Just go to EWTN.com/wings. Fill out your name and email address, and you'll start getting your wings every week. When you get yours, send it to all your friends, and they can send it to their friends. And pretty soon, we're covering the whole world with the good news about EWTN. Wings, the weekly newsletter from EWTN, the Global Catholic Network.
Hi, this is Debbie Georgiani.
And I'm Jerry Usher.
Have you joined our Inspired by Faith book club yet? Log on to standtalltoday.com and click on the book club tab.
Our facilitator, Gigi, picks a great book each month for us to read together.
Then we have a virtual conversation about it at the end of the month.
It's a great way to make sure spiritual reading is part of your daily life.
Again, go to standtalltoday.com and follow the link to register for the Inspired by Faith.
Great to have you with us today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I want to also point out another fine program on EWTN Radio, a co-production of Ave Maria Radio. It's Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo, Monday through Friday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. It's a live call-in show designed to offer Catholics and other Christians an opportunity to hear from and talk with some of the leading apologists and theologians in the church today. Catholic Connection covers social issues, media awareness, and local businesses, youth, families, and community leaders in southeastern Michigan, and reports on news throughout the Catholic community on how we can make a difference. That's Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and I'll bet Teresa Tomeo could come up with 1,000 news stories to share on a program like this, Debbie, because she's always aware of what's going on.
She's always on top of things. You know, speaking about Archbishop Cordileone, and he spoke out really in a very strong way about what happened with the statues of Saint Junipero Serra, because I believe there was a couple, one in San Francisco and I believe in L.A., I believe, Jerry, and other places were being targeted after that. And he spoke out in a very courageous way. And I just wanted to say that was, you and I both know him. He's a big supporter of Catholic radio, and he's wonderful. And he really I think is doing a great job at trying to raise awareness. So even if, some people are critical of the timing of when he expressed his views, he at least expressed them. And I think it's important, the old saying, better late than never. I think it's always important. We constantly still raise awareness so that Catholic Christians can understand what's going on, and especially when it revolves around our church. So I just wanted to, give him a kudos to him for, stepping out. I really do.
Well, this was very personal for him. A quote from, I believe I saw this on National Catholic Register. They did an article on this. Mm-hmm. And the Archbishop Cordileone said, "I've been feeling great distress and a deep wound in my soul when I see these horrendous acts of blasphemy and disparaging of the memory of Sarah, who was such a great hero and such a great defender of the indigenous people of this land, someone who was very much a part of my life growing up." The Archbishop says, "I grew up very close to the first mission that he founded in San Diego, so it inflicted a very deep wound in my soul." So it was very personal for him.
It was very personal. That's right. So, I just would encourage folks, I think we're in a time where social media, news stories and different things are floating out there. Please do the research and go back and see the sources of the information that is being spread throughout all of these platforms. See the timing of it, the dates. Some things are outdated. They're just old stories that are being recirculated as new events that are happening. Other times, if you trace it back, the original source of things are not exactly very, let's put it this way, not very Catholic. So let's really, do your research. Just don't accept things just because you see a name that you recognize, and you go, oh, well, that must be okay because Jerry Usher sent it or whatever. Oh, that must be okay. Just do your own research, right, Jerry? Wouldn't you agree that's a healthy thing just to make sure you're staying in a factual sense, especially as Christians?
Well, yeah, fact-checking, quote-unquote, is such a big thing, kind of the in thing right now, and it always should be. Like you said, Debbie, we often take things right on the surface, regardless of who says them. Sometimes we put a little bit more instant credibility in something because it's somebody we know or respect, but it should be that way with everybody because we have to be informed, we have to be educated, we have to be able to think critically. We say on the show all the time, critical thinking. When you read something, process it and say, how does this sound? Okay, now I'm going to go. They use all these sources. They have all these quotes. And just go look into it, because we can save a lot of grief and discomfort if we do that.
That's right. Absolutely. So please weigh in on this. We want to hear your takes on the news stories that are out there floating around, some that are less popular than others. Maybe they just are flying under the radar and we really need to highlight them because it could help us move along that spiritual path as Catholic Christians. Call in and speak to our call screener, Ryan. He's fantastic. The number to dial is 833-288-3986. And we're going to move along to the first caller. She's first up and Kelly is calling. She's listening on the EWTN app. Welcome, Kelly, to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, Kelly.
I love that story about the man who went to visit his father. That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to make something that hasn't really come up in Catholic radio so much, in Catholic news, and I find it a little kind of disturbing that sometimes in the Catholic world and in media there is confusion, and the thing that's really in the news now is the BLM movement, and often it's tried to be conflated with the civil rights movement, which it's totally not like the civil rights movement at all. It has a very different agenda. It's Marxist in its roots. It's a front for a Marxist agenda. And I find it disturbing that some people think that are Catholic, that they think they can support it and it's benign. But it really isn't benign. And Martin Luther King clearly said his dream was that people would not judge his children by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And that second part, the content of their character, is the goal. Like that's us as people, the content of their character. And to focus on the color of one's skin and pigmentation is just a way to irritate and create civil unrest. It's not benign. If people need to read the manifesto of BLM and see that it's very strongly linked to the Communist Manifesto. And if we're Catholic, we really need to know what we're talking about. We just can't jump into things. So that's what I like. Sometimes I find in media, it's like we get parts of the story, and that's why we're easily misled. But people need to go deeper and see what actually are they talking about, what actually are they supporting. And conflating it with the civil rights movement is kind of like a hook in, but it's really not. And the content of the character is where we got to go, and the virtue of humans and virtuous behavior is what is Catholic. Civil unrest and destruction is not Catholic, and we can't align ourselves with anything like that on any level. So I just wanted to put that out there that we want to love people, but we don't approve of evil, and we don't approve of, it doesn't matter the color of anybody's skin. Like, it's either evil or it's good. And we have to be very careful thinking. We have to know what we're talking about and know what the agenda is behind just the words. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, thank you, Kelly, for your thoughts, and we always appreciate hearing from you. And I think this gets back to what we were talking about before, the really strong point that Debbie was making about knowing what it is that we're talking about, knowing what it is that we are supporting. There are a lot of organizations and movements that are doing very, very good work in the area of getting rid of racism and civil rights and so forth. And I think because of the proliferation of organizations that are out there, it requires us all the more. It's all the more important for us to get behind the name and behind, symbols and so forth, and realize, what each of these different organizations is doing. I remember there was a T-shirt that went around. It's been a few decades ago, and Debbie, you might remember this. I think it was black people looking for respect and an end to racism, and the shirt said, "Love, see no color." And I remember that, and it really struck me. And I thought, my personal philosophy, I mentioned this on the air before, is not to first and primarily see somebody's skin color, but it's to get to know that person, who they are, where their heart is. Are they a virtuous person? Are they a godly person? Are they someone, in any case, no matter what, it's somebody that I need to love and respect. And I think that is what's largely missing today.
Well, and I think if I may go on a little bit, Jerry, when you say get to know somebody, you celebrate, people's the diverse nature of people, their background, their come from, their heritage. I mean, I joke around a lot about being 100% Sicilian and what that means, and you love to talk more about it, get to know and understand it, and it's I think that is really beautiful, and it comes from, where does it come from? I believe it comes from the heart, and this is all has to do with the heart. It originates with the heart, and then it radiates out there from the heart. And I really believe it has to start there. And I actually heard that today on Catholic radio about this does begin with the heart. And when hearts are transformed, that's when things will change. Not because you're adopting some kind of banner or some kind of label or some kind of words or anything like that. Because you know how I feel, Kelly, if you're still listening, or Jerry, you know how how I feel. I have a real problem with labeling. I don't care for labeling because I think it puts people in boxes that they cannot get out of. You're not only in the box, but now you can't get out of the box. There's a real problem there. And I think if we just see it from how God would see it, we're all created in the image and likeness. It comes from the heart. We should love one another, and like we love ourselves, right? And we have that coming, originating from there. We can grow and learn and evolve as human beings. That's how I see it in my head. People may disagree with me. They may say, Debbie, you're way off. This has been happening for years. I get that. I understand that. Everybody has a different come from. But that's how I reconcile it in my brain and in my heart. Kelly, last comments?
Yeah, this was like, Jesus didn't say like Samaritan's life matters and Canaanites' lives matter. Like it does. That's not the message of the gospel. The message of the gospel is repent and follow me. Period. Repent of your sins and follow me. And then that's the message of the gospel. Everything else is just trying to add confusion. A lot of this like lingo and stuff. So that's my point. Following the gospel is following the gospel. It's not making up your version of the gospel. Repent and follow me.
Right. Kelly, thanks so much for your call. And this reminds me of I think it fits perfectly into our conversation today about stories that maybe aren't all that widely reported. I did read it, though, in USA Today the other day, and I was just very moved by this. I mean, because what you're saying, Kelly, and I think what we all should believe is that all lives matter, regardless of the skin color or, the ethnicity or, nationality or anything like that. And I was reading this beautiful, beautiful story about this young black man who witnessed an accident, and a white police officer was in the car as the car was catching on fire, and the young man went over and pulled the officer out of the car. And this is a young man who had had run-ins with the police, would have had maybe every reason to react differently or maybe just let things go and leave things alone. But he was quoted, Debbie, in the article as saying, we all have dignity. We all have dignity in the eyes of God. And he says, this is the right thing to do. It's a fellow human being. This is the right thing to do. And I almost teared up as I was reading this article. I thought, God, please give us all this attitude and take away the racist garbage and all of the other, hatred and violence and animosity that's out there. Boy, I was inspired when I read that.
Well, absolutely. And believe me, I'm not trying to split hairs and really get into semantics with you, Jerry, or Kelly, or anybody else listening, but this is just how Debbie Georgianni, this is how my little head works, okay? I actually see it as all souls. All souls are precious. Because I actually find the word, this is me personally, I actually find the word matter is just, it doesn't go far enough. All souls are precious. Okay, if you made it to this world, it's a miracle, folks. Just look how a child is born. Just look how it happens. It's a miracle. And then the breath of life of God that breathes that life into us, our souls are for eternity. It's incredible. It's a miracle. And I personally, if I were going to adopt a phrase, it would be all souls are precious, because that's how I really and truly feel. And that includes everybody. But I understand where everybody's come from is. I mean, we have to raise awareness to get people to stop being racist, just in general, okay, let alone what they're really feeling in deep in their hearts. So, I mean, there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of conversations to be had. And we need to just be really, I think, respectful of where everybody's where everybody's takes are. Thank you, Kelly, so very much for, sharing with us that, because that is floating around social media, actually like crazy. It's nonstop going around social media. Jerry?
Yeah, thanks again, Kelly. And we have a line open now for you to join us. It's the Take Two with Jerry and Debbie show on EWTN radio. And we're talking about things trending in the news, things that are happening, going on around you. Maybe you've read or heard something that isn't all that widely reported. Maybe it inspired you. Maybe it caused you consternation. Whatever the case may be, you are welcome to call us at 833 833-288-3986, 833-288-3986. Michael is watching the feed on YouTube, Debbie, and he says, what got my attention today is the SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, just upheld a Los Angeles law saying abortion doctors have to have admitting privileges to a hospital not more than 30 miles away. I hadn't heard that yet.
Wow, I didn't even know that. See what we mean about things flying under the radar. Yeah. Wow.
That's going to be, when it comes to mainstream media, that's probably going to be way under the radar. Hope not.
Yeah. Okay, you can jump in on this and share with us what's in the news. Maybe that didn't make it to the big news networks. We want to hear from you at 833-288-3986. And we're hearing from our friends all over the country saying they actually like this addition to the Take Two lineup. Okay, maybe we'll continue to do it each and every month. Stay with us on Take Two.
Gloria Purvis.
We have the wrong understanding and appreciation of pregnancy. We need to do what's best for the child, not what's convenient for the mother, the father, or the doctor.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
And this is an EWTN bookmark brief. I just finished speaking with Anthony DeStefano about his wonderful book, Hell, a Guide, published by Thomas Nelson Books, available through our religious catalog. And Anthony, maybe you can give us an overview why you wrote this book.
Sure. The book is called Hell, a Guide, and it's all about the subject of hell. You know, people have always been fascinated by the idea of hell and the devil and demons. My book is an attempt to cut through all the myths and the Hollywood nonsense and show what the Bible and the church really teach about hell. I know that there have been many famous books about hell, like The Inferno and Paradise Lost and the Screw Tape Letters. My book is different. I wrote it to be a guidebook. Its whole purpose is to show readers what hell is actually like, to give them all the details, to describe the sights, sounds, and sensations.
Okay, so if you don't want to go there, pick up this travel guide by Anthony DeStefano. And the book is Hell, a Guide by Thomas Nelson Books, available through our EWTN religious catalog, EWTNRC.com, of course. And this has been a bookmark brief. Thanks for stopping by.
EWTN, teaching the truth.
I love your show. I was raised in a Southern Baptist environment, in and out of church since I was a teenager. But since listening to your show the last several months, I'm in the process of converting to Catholicism.
Ever since I started listening, I've been learning a lot, and I've been very intrigued by some of the things you guys discuss. I want to learn more, and I have a thirst for learning.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
I'm Gloria Purvis.
And I'm Deacon Harold. The Morning Glory team asks, how do we keep kids safe online?
Tomorrow morning, 7 Eastern. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
What's in the news? We want to hear from you, what you've picked up that's running all around social media and Twitter and any which way, even your local news. We want to hear the stories that maybe get missed or overlooked. It's important, especially if they relate to our faith life. So call in and share your story, or go on social media, YouTube or Facebook. Put your comments there. Jeff will happily put them on the show document. You can also text us. You text the letters EWTN to 55000. That's the way to text us. Or you can email us at take2@ewtn.com. Or this is the best way, because we would love to hear your voice on this wonderful Monday. This Monday, the beginning of the week. Call in 833-288-3986.
Okay, back to your calls. Linda has been waiting patiently in Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio Network. Hi, Linda. So good to have you on the program. Welcome.
Thank you so much. You guys are so great. Thank you for the service you provide all of us. And you do so much for our faith, and I'm grateful for that to begin with.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
My pleasure. My concerns are regarding the fallout that, we were looking at so many news stories of what racism is. We forget to really recognize the true plight that's behind families that are struggling just to make ends meet. And even to the point that, like myself, I have been forced to declare bankruptcy, although I've worked hard all my life and tried to do everything I could to, do my part as my civic duty, as our church says, to pay just debt. However, because of the miscommunication between financial organizations and the government regarding their plans for reprieve or any type of, not any type of changes in banking regulations or things so that people can get caught up. They're basically in this oil country where I come from, people are going bankrupt right now because they didn't ever anticipate oil prices go from, $50, $60 up to zero or negative 44. And overnight has literally bankrupted many. And, you try to get help for where you can, but it's like everybody's in such confusion. And I beg, I contacted my church without any type of response yet. Yet, I know I've got to do what I've got to do to save whatever little I have in life. And but these stories are the families that are suffering desperately, especially in the rural communities, are just being overshadowed with the racism. And of course, racism is ungodly. And like Kelly was saying, the respect of the human person that John Paul II had so eloquently spoken of is the key, and to love them in that regard. But when you have miscommunication and miseducation for years and years, we as the Catholic faith need to put in our, make, like Father Crosby used to say, every man needs to stand their post, because oftentimes, everybody's lower down, and you have nobody representing certain classes of people along the way. And I pray that you please put me, Linda, again, and my family on your list, and all families who are suffering financially and don't get the coverage that we need in order to plead for help for the survival of our families.
Jerry, would you like to respond first? Because I have just a couple comments for Linda.
Well, Linda, I believe you said that you have had to file for bankruptcy, and that breaks our hearts. I'm so very sorry to hear that, and you mentioned many other people are as well. And in a way, this is definitely one of the overlooked. It's not. I shouldn't say it's overlooked amidst everything else that's going on, but it doesn't make quite the splash in the news. The financial hardships and havoc that this is reaping on all people, but especially those of lower income. Debbie, it seems people can hardly focus on the pandemic, which is very serious and needs all of our undivided attention. But it's hard to even focus on something like that when you're just scrambling around, looking around, where am I going to get my next meal? How am I going to put food on the table for my family? So I think Linda's bringing up a very, very good point.
Well, and from a Catholic perspective, I just wanted to say, Linda, I was in financial advising for many, many years prior to going into ministry full time. And so I have a lot of experience in this area. And you are exactly correct in sharing about this idea that we need to be worrying about what's happening right now and in the next steps, the next right thing. Okay. It is so important to be tackling all of these things and to be setting the stage and righting the wrongs and correcting everything and working on the sin of racism and everything that's happening, right? But let's face it, we're in a year where this started off, everybody thought it was going to be super great, 2020 and new decade. Okay, this is great, the year of clear vision, and it turned out to be lousy for everyone with the COVID. And now we're seeing spikes in 17 states, and it's happening again. And then we have all of this rioting and everything that's happening and what's going on with the racial tension and just so many things that are happening that we don't even know what you're going to see the next day you wake up. You're like, what am I going to see next? Is my city going to be here? Are we going to have a roof over our head? What's going to happen? Well, I want to just share something about that. You're right, Linda. I think so many have been forgotten. That they are going through so many financial troubles, and it's because the reason why I know some of my friends who are still in that industry we've chatted, and they said their phone lines are just blowing up with people wanting to speak with them because they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go, they don't know what's the next right thing to correct all of this. So you're not alone in being in that situation with so many of us, okay? But what we need to do is, I believe in my heart of hearts, as Catholic Christians, we need to start helping our neighbors and helping at the community level and try to be there for one another and offer our services if we can, and see if we can get others to see the right steps to get out of that, and so that they can get in a better financial situation. But if we don't start having those conversations, if we are totally just focused on what is going on, and let's face it, it's an election year, so everybody is hyped up about that, and there's all that going on as well. We're forgetting that our neighbor right next to us could be hurting. And I think that's what you're saying, Linda. And I just hope we do that today. I hope we go to our next door neighbors on either side of us where we live and across the street and say, what can I do to help? Are you okay? Where are you at? Do you need anything? What do you think, Linda? If we start there, at least, maybe we can make a difference.
You're spot on. It begins locally and all levels. And I'm fortunate that I have good people around me. They're concerned. They can't do too much to help me, but they can pray for me and for all of us and for our situation and for our country, because we're gifted to have the blessing of being in America, protected by the Mother of God, and we have so many blessings. And it's just so to encourage each other this time is the most important, and to pray for us. And God has all He owns everything. So, we know that He's in charge still. And I'm just grateful for people like you and your organization, EWTN, and Mother Angelica for loving us enough to give us a platform in some regard, and we are most grateful.
Well, thank you, Linda. You are the program, you and the Take Two family. So thank you so much for calling and sharing what you did today. Again, our heartfelt thoughts and prayers go with you and everybody else who is struggling so greatly financially because of everything that's going on right now. Thank you, Linda. We appreciate that, and keep listening to your good friends at Guadalupe Radio Network.
Can I just say one quick thing before Linda drops off? I just want to say this about folks that are filing for bankruptcy and things you have to do, or maybe you have to move and go to a smaller place or something of that nature. Please know this. Please know that the good Lord's watching everything. And I would hope that everyone just stays faithful, trust in God, because remember, when we hit setbacks, God is already preparing our comeback. Okay, please remember that to everybody. Don't fall in. Not this. This doesn't refer to Linda. That's not how she was sharing. But I'm just talking for others that are in the same position. Don't fall into despair, please, because that's what Satan would love. Don't ever lose hope. Hold on, hang on, and the good Lord will never let you fall, because remember, He's preparing your comeback. I just wanted to say that because I actually, as Linda was speaking, I'm thinking of somebody who's listening to the show right now, Jerry, who they are, well, they're, if I may say this, I'm going to keep their name private. They're basically at the point of being homeless at this point. So, and they're listening to the show right now. So I just want them to hear it as well. Okay, hang on. Don't lose hope.
All right. Beautiful. Yeah, beautifully said. Thank you again, Linda. We appreciate your call. 833-288-EWTN is the number to get you on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. 833-288-3986. If you have something you've seen or come across in the news that you would like to share that maybe the rest of us have perhaps not even heard about yet, but you feel it's important, especially things as they relate to our faith, please do join us on that open phone line at 833-288-3986.
A couple more news stories that are floating around. I understand there was a young priest that was by the statue in St. Louis, I believe, that was leading a prayer and some very inspirational words when they were trying to bring down that statue in St. Louis. I also understand there were other things that were happening where, we as Catholic Christians show up so beautifully. What do? What's our weapon of choice, right? What is it? The rosary. The rosary, okay? Yeah. Exactly. The rosary is our weapon of choice. And there were a lot of prayer vigils and different prayer gatherings that were happening around different areas of the country. And I understand that, some of the protesters and rioters, they were really upset, and they actually physically attacked some of the people that were in prayer. I understand there was a priest that was he was beaten up, and he was praying the rosary. This is we really have to pray, please, folks, to the guardian angels that they step up and they really are the bodyguards of those that are taking on public prayer, because I think it can be very dangerous and it is very aggravating to others who don't understand the spiritual component.
Yes. We also welcome your comments on social media, Facebook and YouTube, where the video streams live, and you can post your comments there. And that is exactly what Sydney did, and Sydney has something very important and heartfelt here. Sydney says, I have 2 sons in the military. One is in the Middle East. I cannot believe that Russia has put a bounty on the heads of our children who serve. This upsets me, and what makes it worse is that the leaders of the U.S. have done nothing to put sanctions on Russia, who ordered it. Have you heard about this? Sydney, I had not, but I just did a little quick research online and came across a story on USA Today. And it is claiming, Debbie, the Taliban and Russia deny this, of course, but U.S. intelligence officials do believe that Russian operatives have been secretly offering cash payments as bounties on the heads of U.S. troops, which is a very, very serious thing.
See, this is why we're doing this show, because I think it's important that we like I said, alert others and raise awareness so we can also focus our prayers, be very intentional with your prayers and really ramp up the prayers. Jerry and I are going to be talking about something very, very serious, and we would love for the whole entire Take Two family to join in. We're going to be talking about this on our prayer show July 1st, and we're going to take it all the way till the end of the year. We are going to actually celebrate with a kind of a form of a consecration to the Blessed Mother on January 1st of 2021. So it's going to be really a big deal, and we're going to be talking more about it. But start thinking about that, of incorporating very very precise, focused, detailed, intentional prayers when you talk to God. I think that's important, Jerry. Well, actually, I know it's important. I'm not going to say I think. I know it's important because in religious education, I had many priests that used to say, Debbie, you need to tell everybody in religious education they've got to be very detailed, very precise in their prayers. Right?
Yeah, I remember we did a show on that one time, asking people, are you pinpoint precise in your prayers to God? Because some of the things we pray for, it's interesting, sometimes to be a little bit funny, but it's always very serious. We say a certain prayer, and then if we stop and think about what we just prayed for, it could be answered in a lot of different ways. And so I know for me in my own life, Debbie, I've had to, stop short of being scrupulous about how I pray. Like, Lord, I ask you, please bless me with this on this day at this time, with this particular person. And because God knows what's best for us. And I just want to tell Sydney and all those who are in the military and have loved ones in the military, we're going to be keeping your son, Sydney, in our prayers. And we thank you for giving us, in defense of our freedom, 2 of your beautiful, beautiful babies who have grown up to be soldiers. So thank you very much, Sydney, for your comment on Facebook.
Did you get Michael's comment on YouTube about the NC Register had the article about Archbishop Corleone performing the exorcism where the statue of Saint Junipero Serra took place? Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure I mentioned
that was my source for the story at the start of the program. So thank you, Michael, for posting that and bringing that again to our attention.
Thank you, Michael. We're waving to you. You're on YouTube. You're watching on YouTube. Okay, Chris is up next in Costa Mesa, California. Sirius XM 130. That's the way Chris is listening. Welcome, Chris, to Take Two, our news show.
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my call. I was just wondering if you and your listeners are aware that Black Lives Matter stands for very anti-Catholic, pro-abortion, pro-homosexual agenda items. And our priest, at least I know of a priest that I saw on kneeling beside them and in their protesting. And I just wondered if you were aware of that.
Yes, very much so, Chris. Here's the situation. We have a lot of people in Catholic leadership who have made the express distinction between the phrase, the expression, Black Lives Matter, and the organization. Okay, so that's where the problem lies. That's the situation we have in front of us. So what does a person do? If obviously, I think if any of us have a heart for fellow human beings, and we understand that all life is precious, all souls are precious, we're all created in the image of likeness of God, of course you would absolutely wholeheartedly agree with those three words, right? But the problem is that those three words are now hijacked and attached to this organization. That's how I think all of us who are even on any bit of social media or even watch any of the news, you'll see they do connect those two. Okay. There's the problem though, is that people are trying to get folks to say, well, what camp are you in? Are you, where do you stand? That's been the problem. It's been a twisting of words and a twisting of ideas because it's now linked to this organization. So yes, I believe in my heart that almost all of the Take Two family is fully aware that there's these two different things floating out there of what it means. The problem is, what do we do? What do we do? What do we say? What do we adopt? Should there be a phrase we adopt? Some folks add one extra word to it. They'll say, all Black Lives Matter, or they'll add one more, or absolutely Black Lives Matter. So they'll add one more word to it. This is what happens when words are used to divide rather than really unify and come together. I hope I summed it up okay, Chris, and I hope I don't get a lot of email because I hope I expressed it. What do you think?
Yes, I think so. I think that you said it quite well. I would like to say Black babies' lives matter. Sometimes I think of that too. Black babies' lives matter because they're not being allowed to live. Many of them. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, very, very true. And see, Chris, and just so you know, I'll be fully transparent. This is how Debbie Georgiani feels. So this is just how I feel. If everybody has a problem with it, then so be it. This is my heart. Okay. I think we have lost the ability to connect soul to soul. This is why at the very beginning, 5 years ago, when we started Take Two, I've always said this is a soul ministry, because without the soul, without the recognizing the soul, we are basically shells walking around. Because, I got to say, sometimes you will see a person do some things in history and you just think, do they even have a soul? Are they soulless individuals walking around? Where is their soul? Okay. And I also think that the word matter is not, doesn't go far enough. This is precious to be born. We are it is a miracle. So many babies, so many lives don't get this opportunity. We have an opportunity to walk this earth and to develop and evolve and get closer to God here. Remember, Mother Angelica talked about it. It's a training ground. We get that opportunity. So many babies don't get that opportunity. So many people don't get that opportunity, but we do. So the soul is key, and I believe it's precious, and that's where we have to come from. I believe, this is my personal opinion, but Chris, you can disagree with me, or Jerry, but what do you think?
I think you guys are both great in terms of the ministry that you provide for everybody that calls. I really am spelled. It just knocks me off my socks kind of sometimes how insightful you are and how your prayers help those people. I just see it. I just feel it. I see it. I feel it. I sense it.
Well, thank you, Chris. Debbie said a moment ago she was sharing from her heart, and she really did. And I thought, Debbie, what you shared was very beautiful. And Chris brought up the point, and Debbie, you emphasized it, that the most precious lives of all are the unborn. And let's face it, we know someone who was white and very racist and eugenicist, and that was Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood. Folks, do a little bit of research, and if you want to pinpoint where the majority of Planned Parenthood, we should say abortion mills, because that's their number one source of income. Planned Parenthood is, I think, the leading provider of abortion in the world. If you want to find out where most of their locations are, they're in black communities, they're in minority communities. They still are forwarding and furthering that agenda of Margaret Sanger of trying to eliminate the black race from the face of the earth. That is sickeningly racist and eugenicist, and we all should stand most firmly against that, of course, in support of all black lives, but especially black unborn lives, white unborn lives. You know, we've had this problem of abortion going on for decades now, and along with all of the other social and cultural ills in our country, at some point, Debbie, God's grace is going to be lifted. I mean, we are going to push even His grace out of our lives and out of our country. And I think we're seeing the fruit of a lot of that right now.
And I also, just so you know, thank you, Chris, so very much for calling in and your most kind words about the Take Two family. God bless you, Chris. Thank you. I just want to say we work with a lot of folks that do, they study angels, they study demons, they work in that arena of spirituality. And I would just say, Jerry, that there's a lot of folks saying that the absence of the Eucharist and the absence of the graces that come worldwide for all of us, that we all get to benefit when others receive the Eucharist. That's what we're seeing now. The absence of receiving the Eucharist, those absence of graces, and you're seeing more and more chaos because of it. And so if that, that's a reason, I believe, to believe in God. I mean, there's a reason when you have an absence of God, we have this mass chaos where people can't understand. There's all sorts of word, twisting and people dividing and all sorts of things. That's not of God. And you can quote scripture and say, well, God came, to separate and this and that and all kinds of stuff. That's in a belief system. But I'm talking about not for us as human beings. You shouldn't have a mother and a father and all this kind of stuff happening in a house where everybody's divided, everybody's taking different sides. That's not healthy. That's not healthy. Then the domestic church is ruined at that point, in my opinion, my humble opinion. But don't get me started because that'll get me going.
Well, you're already going.
I am, sorry.
Well, and this show is one that, like Debbie said earlier, we're going to consider doing on a monthly basis if it's something that you, the Take Two family, want. And you show us whether or not you want a topic by your response, which has been absolutely great today. And it's been talking about things that are in the news. And EWTN News is absolutely a fantastic resource for getting the straight scoop on what's going on through a Catholic lens, including Catholic News Agency. It's an online service. And you can get the latest Catholic news and other news at CatholicNewsAgency.com, the only fast, reliable, and free Catholic news source that brings blogs, stories, opinions, and more to your fingertips. An online service from EWTN News. It's CatholicNewsAgency.com.
Mm-hmm. I just say this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'll promise I'll take my religious education hat off and I'll go back to being just regular Debbie here. If we could just try to come from love, please, just try to come from love. I really suggest everyone, if we can, just pull out your DVDs on the Passion of Christ, pull out that movie and watch that movie deeply. That's love. That's love. And He did it for us, all of us. And so if we can try to even try to be a little bit like that, it'll go a long way with others. That's the way I think about it. And that's how I reconcile it in my simple brain, Jerry. And I know you have a philosophy degree, Jerry, so you're very big on critical thinking. And I think that was very important that you express that to the Take Two family, that we do that real deep thinking when we are processing something.
Thank you. Well, you hear the music there that Michael, our producer, is playing for us right now. That is the wrap-up of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie for a Monday. Debbie, tomorrow we're going to ask people, because of the coronavirus pandemic and the shutdowns and all of this and being very, very cautious, have you been able to, or are you planning to take your vacation this year, or has that kind of put the kibosh on that? We want to hear from people about that tomorrow.
It did ours. We had to change our plans, but let's talk about that tomorrow. Until then, we love you. We really, really mean that. Have a beautiful and blessed day. See you real soon.